caught my back in the mirror, and I had these giant claw marks down my back, exactly where my back had been touching the chair. I didn't really know what to do at that point. I was just like, okay, I got attacked by a ghost. Like, how often does that happen to somebody?
We went to bed. We started to hear drums and music. And it got louder and louder, and we were thinking, what is going on? And we weren't sure if he was actually a ghost. When the music got really loud and was getting louder and escalating, I started to get worried. I thought, what is he doing?
I've lived in the same house my entire life, and when I was little growing up, I've always kind of noticed that it was a little haunted and got used to it. It was something that just kind of became natural. My mother was pregnant with twins, and my twin died sometime I was still in the womb, and when I was a little kid, I used to always look for him all the time, and I kept constantly asking for my brother David, and I was just always searching and asking for him, and as a kid just always blaming my parents, like, where is he, where is he? So as soon as I was a little kid, I knew something was up. As I got older, I kind of perceived that maybe that's what some of the things were going on in the house, that maybe it was just kind of him wanting to let me know that he was there.
Most of us live in a world of buildings and cars and people. This is the everyday world, the world we say is real. But what if we were sensitive to another world as well? A world of spirits and ghosts and mysterious events. Hi, I'm Lawrence Chow. Today in Ghostly Encounters, we meet Lee and Christine, two women who each have one foot in the spirit world. Lee Sanford had a twin brother who died in the womb. She knew she missed him. She felt they still had a relationship despite his death. What she didn't know is that this bond with her brother would lead her into a lifelong connection with the paranormal.
When I was little, I used to have a favorite teddy bear of mine that would sit in an antique rocking chair that I had in my room. And we just rearranged my room because I just gotten bunk beds, which I was very excited about. I woke up to the sound of music playing, and I was pretty startled, and I realized it was coming from my clock radio. The clock radio wasn't plugged in because we had rearranged my room to put the bunk beds up. I looked and I saw my rocking chair, which was slowly swaying back and forth. And that's when I noticed that sitting at the edge of my bed was my very favorite teddy bear. And this is a Flopsy teddy bear that was sitting straight up, which it can't really do. I just remember screaming for my parents because I was so freaked out, and I knew at that moment that it was nothing that I did. It wasn't my mind playing tricks. I mean, no matter what my parents tried to say to calm me down, I knew that there was something going on, and I was terrified. There was one time when I think I was in grade 9, and I had finally moved into my basement apartment. My grandfather had moved out and moved into a retirement home, and weird things happened from day one. I could hear the cupboard slamming sometimes, and my lights would go on and off all the time, And at night, I could hear laughing. It was kind of like a menacing laughing, and you could hear something banging on the pipe. I never got a good night's sleep. I always was terrified. I would scream at it to stop just so that I could fall asleep because I had to wake up and go to school the next day. Even my friends said that they experienced stuff. They felt things coming in and watching them when they slept over. There was one time when I think I was in grade 9 and I finally moved into my basement apartment. I never got a good night's sleep. I always was terrified. Even my friends said that they had experienced stuff. They felt things coming in and watching them when they slept over. They would claim that something would come in and they'd feel something standing over them or breathing on them. So I had some friends that didn't even want to come over anymore. Here I was 14 years old and I had to have the light on to go to sleep. I was terrified. I lasted 6 months down there and I couldn't stay down there anymore. So I moved out of there. Mother's best friend's father died, so they were moving her mother into a retirement home, and they had a lot of lovely antiques that my mother wanted, and we took a big moving truck down and we were gonna in a few antique chairs. They were very old antiques. They were probably around 100 years old, and my mother had always loved them. So we got those and no one had really sat in them yet or really paid any attention to them until finally I was watching my mother put glasses in the new cabinet, and I sat down on the chair and I was sitting in sort of an awkward position facing my mother where really only my side was touching the chair. And I began to make fun of them because not only did they not match, the carvings on them were slightly different. One had sort of what looked like flowers carved in the top, and the other one had a face that was carved right into the top that looks like it's almost got an ornate crown on top of it, and the face kind of protrudes out. They have this really ugly old yellow fabric on them. And I was sitting in the chair just making fun of them, going on about how they ASAP needed to be recovered. They were just creepy and old, and I didn't really know why we had to have them in our dining room. When I woke up the next morning, my back really hurt, but I didn't really think anything of it. I was just like, oh, I slept on it, funny, no big deal, until I went to go and take a shower, and I caught my back in the mirror, and I had these giant claw marks down my back, exactly where my back had been touching the chair. They couldn't have been caused by my fingernails. They couldn't have been caused by either of my dogs. And we all kind of came to the conclusion, almost half joking, half serious, it must have been the chair that, you know, maybe by making fun of it, something had come and caused the scratches on my back. We'd even researched and figured out that they were ghost marks, because ghost marks look a very specific way compared to how a normal scratch would. And I thought, these must be what these are. They look the exact same. So at that point, we all kind of came to the conclusion, don't make fun of the chair, because clearly it's gonna come after you. And I didn't really know what to do at that point. I was just like, okay, I got attacked by a ghost. Like, how often does that happen to somebody? They sit in the corner of my dining room. When I go down at night, I just feel like there's something sitting in the chair, and it does not like me. Not really in like a menacing evil, it's gonna get me. disapproves of me and it doesn't really like me, so I avoid those chairs at all costs. We'll never sit in them. A lot of people have claimed that in my hallway in front of my parents' room, that there's a permanent figure there. A lot of people have claimed to walk into it. My sister always says that she walks into it all the time. People have just sensed something down my hallway. A lot of people have claimed that in my hallway in front of my parents' room, that there's a permanent figure there. A lot of people have claimed to walk into it. My sister always says that she walks into it all the time. People have just sensed something down my hallway, which we think might be my brother. As a kid, I've definitely had instances where, say I've been really upset and been crying in my room, the bed would go down a little bit, kind of like you knew someone was sitting next to you. And it was a comforting feeling. Sometimes I think, okay, maybe it could be my brother. And I'll know that it's him because I have felt an arm literally come over my shoulder. So I can feel that someone is sitting beside me and has their arm around me. It was just very comforting, and someone almost trying to protect you and make you feel good. Kind of like a guardian angel. When I know that he's around or things happen because of him, it's more of a comforting feeling, and I'm not usually scared by it. I think that having my brother around, it definitely makes me have a foot in the spirit world. It definitely opens me up quite a bit because I've always been able to sense things more than others, and I just know when I'm not alone, and I know when I'm being watched, and it's just something that I've always just kind of had to deal with.
Our experts say history is full of tales of psychic bonds between twins. Bonds that can sometimes gain power even after one of the twins dies. Lee believes her relationship with her dead twin gave her special access to the spirit world. Christine Wright also has an extraordinary connection to the world of the supernatural, but the source of Christine's connection is very different.
I delivered my oldest daughter. They put you in observation for a while just to see how you're doing, and something was wrong. My doctor told me that I actually was gone. I don't recollect that part of it because I was under. I remember leaving my body and looking down from a very great height. The surgeon couldn't even see what he was doing. There was so much blood. I was losing it so fast that they were taking blood directly from the refrigerator and transfusing it, and that's why I was so cold. And I recall looking at it and thinking, oh, I don't want all that pain and whatever was going on. And there was a lot of light. And it was a very loving light, like I felt like I wanted to be there in that light. So much peace, and I felt surrounded by love, most loving presence. It was almost like there were beings on each side of me, and they communicated to me that it wasn't my time yet, and I had to go back. I had work to do. At that point, I went back into my body, and it was hard. It was a very difficult feeling, like slamming into cement. I spoke. I said, why is my body shaking like that? Because I was shuddering. All of a sudden, there was all kinds of activity because they actually thought I was gone, and I spoke. And then I passed out again. One of the Aboriginal tribes, and I think it was the Cherokee, had a name for people who were supposed to have crossed over but didn't. And it translates roughly into English as half ghost. And they believe that someone who has not crossed over and stayed here has one foot in the physical world and the other foot in the spirit world. and this gave them special abilities. I remember it was around my 40th birthday. My mother was very ill, and she had always wanted to go to Hawaii, so one of my sisters and I decided we would take her. They went there ahead of me. It was quite a long trip for me. It took about 20 hours to get there. And I arrived about 3 or 4 days after they had. I was very tired, and it was late evening, and so I had something to eat, and then I said, well, I think I'd like to go and lie down. And my sister and I were sharing a room, so I laid down in the bed and couldn't sleep, couldn't drift off. I just felt like there was something in the room. Later on, my sister came down and got into bed, and then about an hour passed by, and she said, "Are you awake?" I said, "Yes, I'm awake." I said, "What is that?" She said, "You mean the man who's standing at the end of the bed?" So then it was, oh my gosh, we're both perceiving this. She found it quite disturbing that this presence was in the room and looking at us, and very focused, not moving, not saying anything, not doing anything, just standing there. And we asked him to go away, but he didn't. And so we had a restless night. Second night, there was a lot more activity. When we went to bed, we started to hear drums and music. And it got louder and louder, and we were thinking, what is going on? And we weren't sure if he was actually a ghost. He was dressed in, I would assume, some kind of ceremonial costume. He had a headdress that was around the top of his head with leaves and feathers and flowers. He had more of the same around his neck, and then like a little skirt, I guess you would call it, around the hips, and bare feet. Our perception was that he was some kind of witch doctor or medicine man. It was like a ritual, stomping the feet and shaking his hands and chanting a little bit. When the music got really loud and was getting louder and escalating, I started to get worried. I thought, what is he doing? Maybe he accidentally, came across us and then was, oh, what's this, I don't know. We just asked, could you please go away? Please leave. I think we asked several times. He just decided he wanted to be there. It almost got to a point where it felt frenetic. And so I said, I've had enough. I'm going upstairs to sleep on the couch. He didn't leave. So we thought, well, we're going to have to do something else because he's not leaving. It took us a while, but we did find a New Age shop, and we went in and we spoke to the proprietors, and they said, you need to smudge the whole villa. And they told us to use a bundle of sage or sweetgrass and use the smoke and try and remove the presence with it. And they told us to go in all the corners, make sure we got smoke in every single corner of the whole place, which we did. The next night he was not there. After that, he was gone. And we didn't hear anything else for the whole, I think we were there for another 10 days. It was quiet after that.
Sanctification is a universal practice. Some Catholics bless their homes with holy water. Buddhists may use incense and offerings to purify land before building on it. The Native American smudge ritual Christine carries out is a form of sanctification as well. The smoke from the sage purifies the villa and drives out the spirits. So it's important to smudge all the corners, for these are thought to be border areas between our world and the world of spirits. Both Lee and Christine feel connected to the world of the supernatural. As she moves through life, Lee finds she is not that happy with the responsibility of this power. Christine, on the other hand, has found a way to use her experience to deepen her connection to both this world and the next.
No matter where I am, I experience stuff, so I assume it must be me. I just think that it's maybe that I'm more perceptive. Either ghosts are purposely trying to come through to make themselves known. I don't really know what the reasoning is for it, or the fact that I have someone watching out for me. I just know that these things happen, and so if something's trying to contact me for a reason, I don't really know what they want, because I don't really want that gift. I don't want that responsibility.
Since then, I have volunteered for palliative care and assisted people crossing over. When people are having a hard time in life, I try to get them to understand that, you know, this is transitory, that you are a spiritual being, that you are not your body. Your body is like the vehicle you travel in for this lifetime, and then you move on to something else.